Either I would have been stressed out of my mind or I would have closed the business down. It was either going to be one of those two because I had the proper people in my corner. That is really the only reason why we've even got into this point we're at now.
Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Hello. Welcome to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I am so excited for this episode. This episode was recorded with one of my amazing clients, Courtney Curtis, who is the CEO and Executive Director of Family Services located in Virginia. And it has been a pleasure and a blessing to be able to work with Courtney going on 3 years. 3 years of amazingness to watch her grow as a leader, as a CEO, as a business owner, all the things, and to also be able to be generating $1.2 million. And that's from zero. So in the episode, we're going to go through and dive into what Courtney's journey is over the past 3 years that I've been working with her. And she even goes back prior. And also diving into how private practice CEO was able to help her throughout this journey, in addition to some of the mindset shifts that have happened for her to go from shutting down a very lucrative business to starting a whole new venture with her husband, Kennard. The services that Courtney does inside of her business, her and her husband, is they make an amazing impact inside of their community through outpatient services, intensive and home services. Right now, they're gearing up for summer camps with the kids that they work with. And I'm just excited because there's just so many gems. If you really pay attention, she's giving you permission to try something new, to be in alignment fully with your mission, your vision, your purpose that God's given you, and to do it through, I'm not too sure what's going to happen on the other side of it, but also to do it just carefree. If you are struggling with your practice, as I was talking to Courtney and as I continue to work with all the amazing clients that I get to work with, their transformations is what helps keep me going, right? And watching them go from overwhelmed to burned out. Courtney talked to that, to having structure and KPIs and metrics and things to make sense and profitability, and just the courage of what it takes to really be an entrepreneur and a business owner and in the healthcare space, like all of it. It lights a fuel underneath me. So one of the things that I'm doing right now is there is the Private Practice CEO Lunch and Learn series. So it's 5 days. I've never done anything like this. So it's 5 days of hanging out with me for 1 to 2 hours, depending on what's your venture. I'm going to tell you to hang out with me for 2 hours for 5 days, where we're going to go through and make sure that you're set up and teach you some amazing skills when it comes to business and leadership, and making sure that you're setting your business up to run without you, right? To have freedom inside of your practice, for your practice not to need you 24/7. Right. And so we're going to go through and talk about all the major things, all the major things, from having a high performance team, what it looks like to have a profitable business, making sure that you understand your next stage of business growth when it comes to the money piece, because the stages are different. What you need to focus on is different. We're going to talk about metrics. We're going to talk about you as a CEO and identifying your leadership and what resonates with that, and just so many good things. So your ticket, child, go run to go ahead and purchase this thing. And one of the things that me and Courtney were even talking about is the mindset to invest and to make sure that you're set up with support, right? And so we're talking about the investment piece and to go from 0 to 1.2 million. So do the math when you're thinking about investing, when you're thinking about hiring, when you're thinking about, I'm not sure, and she's profitable. So she'll go through that journey and she'll talk through, she didn't start off profitable. We had to work through that, but she's profitable and happy and just bought a house and all the things. So listen to the episode. In the show notes is the link for you to go ahead and get your ticket. So the Lunch and Learn series is happening between May 12th and 16th. Go ahead, block your schedule. If you can't block your schedule for 1 to 2 hours, then that already tells me that you need to be part of this, because that is, this is the best use of your time, especially if you're struggling. Chaos costs money. So go ahead, see the show notes, listen to Courtney, and enjoy the rest of your day. We were in the middle of a coaching session, and we were talking about financials and numbers and forecasting and exactly where the business was going to land. And you threw me a curveball, so before we give people all the gems, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell folks who you are?
Yeah, my name is Courtney Curtis, and I am the CEO and Executive Director of Family Services, Inc. And I am so happy to be on Brandy's podcast today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to have you here too. So, okay, so the bomb was 7 figures. And that I know we have, just to give everyone some background, me and Courtney have worked together going on almost 3 years. And about 2 years ago, you decided to leave part of your business. And so when we first started working together, you had your mom's business that she left to you. And from that, there was a big decision that you, and like during your deep dive session, there was a big decision that you and your husband, who you work with, came upon. And so do you want to talk a little bit about your journey? I don't want to give all the gems away, but tell folks like just some of the things that you've actually been able to accomplish over the past few years.
I inherited a business that I pretty much did not know a whole lot about. I didn't go to school for it. I did not have dreams to own a business like this. I pretty much went through some, difficult moments of, grief with losing my mother. And I just always remember through that she wanted to leave me this business. She always said it before she passed, and it was an unexpected passing. So definitely nobody knew that it was going to be this early that I would be stepping into this. And when she passed, like I said, I went through, the grief, and it was probably about a year that I was just like, what is going on? Thought never came into my mind that I was going to leave the business or that I was going to close it. That thought never came in my mind. I said, I have to keep it open in her honor. And it was more so of what am I going to do with this business? What role am I going to play in it? So make a long story short, I ended up stepping into that executive director role. And this was after I actually hired an executive director. It didn't really work out. And then I had a come to Jesus meeting and was like, okay, you're supposed to be the executive director. And I'm like, me? So stepped into that position and did that for it may have been about 2 years before my cousin, who I'm really close to, I, had really talked to her about pretty much everything that was going on with the business and how I was feeling. And, it was just one of those things where I was just like, I love the business. I want to continue it, but I just don't know what to do with it. And I was feeling overwhelmed. I mean, I was working crazy hours with kids. And it was a lot. I was still working. I came from real estate. I was still working real estate. So I was pretty much working 2 full-time jobs at the same time, which is crazy to even think about now. But my cousin, she sent me a reel one day, and it was Brandy. And the reel basically was asking questions. It was like, are you overwhelmed? Are you burnt out? So every question she was asking, I was literally like, yeah, yes, yes.
That's me. Hands raised. Yes.
Every question was yes. So I decided to reach out, and it was probably what saved Family Services, to be quite honest. It was God really just allowed for Brandy and her wisdom and just everything that God has given her to be able to pour into us, and that's how we've kind of been able to stay open all these years. I really do, and I'm not even exaggerating by it. Like we probably would have shut down by
now. No. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure just to see you and your journey and the growth of not only the business, but just your leadership journey, right? Just to see how you first, when we first started working together, and then to see you now, It's been so fun to watch. So I want to take us back to like the deep dive
Yes.
and where the question of came up, are you happy in your mom's business? And what to do with your mom's business. And it wasn't immediate, but I remember the first instinct was, do we want to shut down this arm of the business and start something new potentially? And so, tell us a little bit more about the thought process, and even to your point, what you were talking about, like the legacy, your mom did specifically wanted you to have the business.
Yeah.
And I always say that it's such a brave decision to do that anytime you build something and then you make the choice to do something different. So talk through that decision a little bit more.
Yeah. So I think we stepped into the role knowing that this is something that could provide a great income for us, but we didn't initially think about, well, what are we passionate about? And that may have been contributed to because we just didn't know how many different services we could add. We really didn't know. We kind of knew we were passionate about children, but we just didn't know in what aspects we would want to add services. So when we had that deep dive, it just so happened that my husband and I were kind of thinking the same thing, but we never really communicated it to each other until that session. And that's when we discovered through our conversation with Brandy is that neither one of us were really passionate about this service that we had added, which was the service was actually very lucrative for our company. But it was taking away a lot of time from our family, which we hated because we're both very family oriented. It was, it was tiring. We were always there. The back end of things was overwhelming for me because I was still learning things. I really didn't have anybody to count on. I'm like having to try to find the information. So it was a lot, and we just never communicated with each other. We just did it because we were like, well, we're doing this to support our family, so let's just do it. We're both risk takers. We're both like, we're going to work to make sure that that our family is taken care of. And during that session, we were like, we both want to be happy though.
Yeah.
We want to be able to be passionate about what we're doing. And this is not going to last long. If we're going to continue this service, even though it's providing us money and to be able to live a great life, it's we're just not happy in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to close that part of the service after that session. It took about 6 months, took about 6 or 7 months to actually close it and, to make sure our clients were, referred to the right people
Mm-hmm.
and make sure we talked to our staff and all of that. So it was a long process, but afterwards, it was liberating.
Yes.
It was liberating. Even though it was a huge part of our income, but for us, it was like we can still stay home with our family. Like, we will make it. We will make it. That was kind of our mindset at that point. And at that, we were still meeting with Brandy throughout, trying to figure out like where we wanted to go, what services we wanted to add, and that's where we, really found our passion through, closing that service and figuring out where we wanted to go.
For those who don't know, Private Practice CEO is like a 6-month program. And I remember like starting out, and I remember during that 6 months, that was really the main focus is what do we want to do with this, with this service line, which is essentially was like all the money, all the revenue was coming through, this particular service. And it was the conversation of, we tried like a couple of different policy and procedures, strategies, and it ended up being, no, we want to shut it down. Yeah. And I remembered after everything was done, you had already gone through the program. And so it was more or less like, well, what's next? Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is, and I think it's important for people to know, is you stepped away for a minute, like for a month or so, and decided so that way you could settle with things, kind of figure things out, try to figure things out on your own. And I remember when you got back, you emailed me back like, yeah, no, I need help. Like, like, let me try to figure it out. And I always say, when you came back and we started talking through the service line and you were saying like, we just let a bulk of our income go. and we don't know what we're going to do, but we're excited about the opportunity. And I think it's important for people to understand, especially money isn't everything, right? And so people can definitely say, and even though we're talking about your journey to seven figures, it's the lifestyle, it's the purpose, it's the alignment, it's the vision, it's the vision and mission,
Yeah.
and that you have in the reason why you're waking up every day. And so if that fulfillment isn't there, then it means nothing. So for folks who are listening, I think you're giving them permission to do something different. It's okay, that you'll figure it out. That's what you said, like you'll figure it out along the way. And I just think that that's so inspiring, which is why I wanted us to have this conversation more openly. Because there's so many reasons that you could have been scared, like we need money, we have a family. This is a very lucrative service. I want to make sure that we don't, the house doesn't get foreclosed on and all the things. Like there's so many things that you
Yeah.
could have put into that situation that you just didn't. It was there, like it was a topic of what are we going to do, but it was never the pressing issue. And so I think the mindset that you had jumping into the new service line was amazing. And it was more or less of what do we want to create? And so tell us more once you decide on the service. You said liberating. So what was the next thing that came up for you?
Yeah. So the following year we took, as you can imagine, took a huge dip
Mm-hmm.
in our income because we didn't have that lucrative service anymore. We were
Right.
in the process of, I feel like it was like a rebuilding process, to
It
be
was.
quite
Yeah.
honest. And so people ask all the time, like, well, when did y'all get started? And, I'll say, I really feel like our initial start date was 2014 with how my mother started it. But
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like for us, it wasn't even 2019 when we
Yeah.
inherited the company. I feel like we started the company in 2022, which is
Mm-hmm.
when we started our children's services.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to tell people, because I'm like, this is what we're passionate about. This is what we're working toward. This, our vision, our mission is all based off of this. So yeah, we did a rebuilding, and it took it took it took a little while to get to where we really wanted to be with just clients and staff, and um, it took a lot of planning. I felt like I had the tools at that moment to really build something the correct
Mm-hmm.
way, because I had gone through, the classes and everything with Brandy, but then I was able to come back and still get coaching through her. So, it was really good to be able to go through that process with the tools that were given. And I will say, a lot of it has to do with faith as well.
Yeah.
So, I think what got me through everything was not only Brandy's coaching, but a lot of prayer, a
Yeah.
lot of prayer, and just listening to what direction God wants us to go into. So it wasn't like we just said, okay, we're going to do this. No, we listened to God. We prayed about it. My husband and I both came to the agreement on it, and that's the direction we went into. So after we got our mission and vision straight, we're like, this is what we're looking toward now. Like everything else, if we do anything, it has to be toward this vision and mission. And that's what we've been doing for the past 3 years, is
Mm-hmm.
focusing on that. And doing a lot of planning, which I wasn't doing it before.
Yeah.
Planning like crazy, quarterly, monthly, annually, like that's what you're gonna learn. That is what you're gonna learn. If you decide to go through CEO private practice, you will learn how to plan for your business. And I believe that all of that planning contributed to where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a foundation for all of your staff, for not only me, but for everybody around us.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to know, when did things start to click?
I would say last year, when I decided to give up real estate. For me, that was my moment of like, oh, we're really doing this. Like
Yeah.
we're going all in. Just like God had told us to get rid of that service that was very lucrative,
Hmm.
and just follow our passion. The same thing happened with real estate.
Hmm.
God, he kind of took away my passion, to be quite honest. I got to the end and I was just like, oh, I don't think I really want to do this anymore. And God gave me a confirmation. He was like, no, you got to give it up. Again, a very nice portion of our income. So at the end of the day, like, it's like God doesn't care about, what you can do to make money. He's like, I want you to go this way and I will
Mhm.
take care of you. And it's a big trust and faith thing. Like you have to have faith.
Yeah, because I think what people do, and I've said this before, is when you're growing a business and you're wanting to build real wealth and you want to get the business to profitability,
Yeah.
or you want the business to pay you a certain amount of money, what folks will do is they will go into other businesses, like create like all these side businesses and to the bit like
Yeah.
to the full business, compared to what I hear you saying is, because the real estate,
I,
I remember when you first came on, honestly, I think that's how you paid me, was from real estate, like a real estate deal.
yes.
It's
Yes.
like, it
Yes.
was like a real estate. I remember you talking about like, yeah, I'll get ready to sell this house. Hold on. I'll be back. Give me, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so it was a lucrative income, but also what you did was you just trusted the process and you trusted your
Yeah.
business.
Right.
And for
Yeah.
me, when it clicked was when you started to get to a place of having leadership team meetings. I saw you do. I was part of those
Yeah.
meetings. Fully getting into a place of like your time, like you did your time audit, which was last year. Like you did your time audit and looking at what can I fully do when it comes to being a CEO, right?
Yeah.
And starting to delegate because you have leadership team at this point in time,
Yeah.
and getting things off of your plate so you could be the true visionary. I also know, with just like the tapping into some of like the marketing events and things that you've been able to do,
Yeah.
in order to get to the place where you need to get to financially. But really just watching you give up. I didn't know, to honestly, until this conversation, that you gave up real estate.
Okay.
We haven't really talked about that. So that's
Yeah.
like, so, but yeah, but I think that that's a
Yeah.
good point, because
Yeah.
when you decide to go all in, when you trust the
All
process, when you trust God, when you trust, like, again, like the purpose and mission that he's given you, then he'll make sure that everything comes together and he'll make sure that you have everything that you need. I know, and you talked to it like just a couple minutes ago, where you just purchased a new house too on top of it, right?
yeah.
So not only did you give up two income streams, two well lucrative income streams, you are building your business
Yeah.
profitably, and you were able to buy a house.
Yeah.
All, you know what I mean? And so,
Crazy. Yeah.
right. So it's like when
Yeah.
you start to put these things out there, it's like, wow, okay. You don't have to have 15,000 different businesses. You just need one
No.
profitable one that makes sense and that you can leverage.
Right.
So the scaling process, you have how many people on your team at this point in time? I know the answer, but I think it's really
Yeah.
helpful for other people to listen.
Yeah, so we have 23 on our
Mm-hmm.
team now, and about seven of them are management,
Mm-hmm.
considered management. So I really enjoy the leadership portion of it. I did not think I was going to enjoy it that much. I think when I
Mm-hmm.
first came to Brandy, I kind of feared it a little bit.
Yeah.
But now that I have what I need to be able to be their leader, I enjoy it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just love pouring into them. And the fact that I have found my dream team
Mm-hmm.
is like, I mean, it's a blessing. It really is. They buy into our mission and our vision, and I don't take that for granted. I really don't. And they're all like, what can we do to make sure that we're reaching our goals?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm very transparent with them. I share a lot with them. But we're also like family. Like, if any personal things happen, we're praying for them. We're helping them out. I really want to I focus on creating a culture where we really can come together as family, and be able to work together. So I've been really driving in our values, um, So look, now that I'm talking about it, I was like, it's a lot that goes into leadership, and I feel like I
Mhm.
really have excelled with it in the past year. That leadership portion of it, and just focusing on the management team, not just the management team, but then the management team, like helping them to focus on their individual staffs too. So it's been rewarding just seeing like everything that we have accomplished all together.
Mhm.
It's yeah, it's a blessing.
We've been working together for almost 3 years, but for you to go from zero to this, um, it happened in a very short period of time. Like once you fully invested in it, once you fully decided to move forward with it, just to go all in. Um, yeah, and I think that's been the fun part of it too. And so when people are
Yeah,
nervous to hire, or when people are nervous to hold accountability, because I hear you saying with the business culture that you're creating, it's a supportive business culture. But also, Courtney, I know that you hold your team accountable. So do you want to
yeah,
talk through like even implementing like the KPIs that you've implemented?
yeah,
Because it's not like because I think sometimes when people hear family, they think like, oh, we can't hold people accountable because we're family. And no, that's not the case. Like you hold your team very accountable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so I've put into place not only the KPIs, so we did KPIs like scorecards for our staff.
mhm.
Probably put that in place last year, beginning of last year. So we've been doing that for about a year and a half. But this year I wanted to put into place the KPIs for the management team. So
Mhm.
we have those, and along with those KPIs and scorecards, we also do one-on-ones. So I do one-on-ones with all of the management team. Right now we're doing them once a month, but we'll get to probably doing them every other month eventually. And then the staff, they do theirs quarterly. So last time, I did all of them, but now I'm getting to a place in June where everybody's pretty much gonna do their own, the staff that fall up under them.
Mhm.
So even in that's a big accountability piece because before it was just kind of like
Yeah.
well, so we weren't holding people accountable because we didn't know the numbers. We didn't know the numbers. We didn't know what people were doing. We just knew that so and so was late on notes or so and so didn't turn in this, but
Mhm.
we didn't know that they had been late for a month or they had so this is great. And on our scorecard, literally has everything that they need. So we rarely get questions. Our staff rarely come to us for things because they have everything that they need right there.
Mhm.
And we do a lot of, even in the background part of it with the management team, we have a once a week meeting, but our once a week meeting is like almost 2 hours because we're talking about so many things. We're talking about like if there are any holes in processes, and if that's the case, our
Mhm.
bottlenecks. Like we're talking about all of that. We're okay. How can we fix this issue? Right now we're working on a manual for all of our staff so that when they come in, we can just provide them, with those things so that they're not having to come back and ask questions. And everything is all in one place. So we're constantly working on processes, procedures. And I know it becomes a lot for the team sometimes, but that's why I call them a dream team because even with them, like if they see an issue wrong, their first thing is like, "Hey, Courtney, I think we need a policy and procedure on this." And I'm like, "You're right."
That is music to
So
my ears.
it's pretty amazing. Like if you start doing it, you create that culture. Like they're gonna catch
Mhm.
on, and they're gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Yep, yeah, we need to do this," and even
Mhm.
down to like just because again, I want to create a culture where yes, like people are held accountable, but we've also created a culture where we want to coach people first. Like
Mhm.
we're not like the type of people. Well, my husband and I, we're not the type of people we're gonna bring into the office and we're just like, you did this, you did that. We're gonna try to figure out like what's going on. How can we help you?
Mhm.
Like, what can we do? Like, can we talk through this? Do we need to do a time audit? Do we need to, what do we need to do to help you in this situation? Um, so, and from that, our management team has pretty much caught on to that. So now they're
Mhm.
like, when they bring a staff in, they're like, hey, they're having conversations with them. They're coaching them. and I love having that type of atmosphere because it's not like, people are scared to talk to us. Like they want to come in and communicate, and so we now, I mean, don't get me wrong, we still have a few that are
yeah.
a little haywire sometimes. But for the most part, we do have a really good culture, and I think most of our staff trust us and want to communicate with us. So,
Yeah, I love
and I
it.
enjoy that. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is this is what I wanted. This is what I
Mhm.
wanted. If I'm gonna have a big team, I never, to be honest, really wanted to be over anyone, but this is the route that God wanted me to take. But if this is where God wanted me to be, this is how I want it to be. I want it to
Mhm.
be filled with, what the mission that we have. Like I want everybody to be focused on that mission, which is the children that we serve.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. So such good stuff. Such good stuff. So I'm curious to know, how have you changed as a CEO? Like, what would you say has been like your biggest shift?
confidence,
Mhm.
confidence, becoming a leader, um, and really having the tools to be that. I feel like maybe I'm a natural born leader, to be honest, but I can do it more intentionally. I'm more confident. Yeah, I'm more of a leader, more of a planner. I don't think I was a planner really beforehand, but now that I know how to do it, it's like it's stuck on me now. I'm just like, because if I get overwhelmed or like in my head about things, I'm like, let me just sit down, take about an hour, and just like write some things down.
Well, thank you. Like, I just think that, like, again, this conversation is just full of so many gems for those who are listening. Not only the permission to start something new, to leave what it doesn't, like, what's in alignment, what feels draining, and start something new.
Yeah,
Recognize that you're going to go through a journey as you step into something new, and
yep,
things don't happen overnight. But once it clicks, it's going to click. And for
yeah,
you, it's clicked in so many big ways, not only from the team, but also revenue, and so
yeah,
when anytime we're talking about, really what the path that you're on now is going after the multi-million, right? And so
absolutely.
yeah, and so when we think about that, then I think it's just fun. So I just feel so
Um,
blessed to be able to work with you, and wanted
Thank
to make sure that we
you.
shared your story
Yeah,
from, 0 to 1.2 million.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
And I'll say, Brandy, this too. Like that first year when we went under, so we were
Mhm.
not profitable that first year.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, of losing that service, we have pretty much double every year after that.
Hmm.
So it went from 300, then 600, and now we're on track for 1.2.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't take it lightly. The fact
Hmm.
that we have learned like all of the things through private practice CEO, because like I said, I'm really not exaggerating when I say I did not have what I needed to do what I'm doing now. I really didn't. Either I would have been stressed out of my mind or I would have closed the business down. It was either going to be one of those two.
Hmm.
And because I had the proper people in my corner, that is really the only reason why we've even got into this point we're at now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future has because we're not stopping. And that's my mindset now. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm not stopping. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep helping people as long as God gives me the ability to do so. We're gonna keep going.
Hmm.
And the fear, like I said, I'm a risk taker anyway. So the fear was really not there to move forward with, adding new services and hiring people. I never really like retract from doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, it's still a structure that has to be put in place, and that's what
Hmm.
I did not have. But if I could say anything, I just encourage people to not have fear. Like if you know what's going to grow your business, do it.
Hmm.
Do it because it might be a temporary moment where you're feeling like this does not feel good. This feels icky. I like, we're not getting enough money in. It's okay. It's gonna work out. Like if you put the proper processes in place, the structures in place, it's gonna work out. It always will. It always will. So
yeah, I always think people have a hard time with and is the investment piece, and and so
yeah,
you have continued to work with me for, like I said, 3 years, and for
yeah,
the past 3 years, you have at this point in time I'm on retainer, but still, like at the past 3 years, you I remember you saying, oh no, like I'm going to continue to invest. And I have a lot of clients who say that I'm going to continue to invest because of what's on the other side of the investment.
absolutely.
And when
Yeah,
you think about the amount of money that you've paid and the amount
yeah,
of return on investment on the other side of it, I know from my own journey, I have my own coaches and consultants that I always work with, and the return on investment. So I'm happy to hear you say that, like just to do it, whether if it's a hire, whether if it's hiring someone to help work with you, or to help up level you, to encourage you,
hmm
to support you, like all of that, then it's a game changer. It really is. And I think
really.
people get so nervous of, oh no, I'm not going to be able to pay the person I'm hiring, or oh no, I'm going to give you this money and nothing's going to be on the other side of it. But the beautiful thing is you've done the work. Like every single thing that we've talked through in every single session, or you always implement it. Even when we talked about the KPIs with the
hmm
leadership team, you went and implemented it and came back and was like, yeah, this is what happened on the other side of it. So it's you always stay true to what you're going to do. And so I'm so excited for your growth. I'm excited for your journey. I'm excited to see what's next. I feel blessed to be able to work with you, and just thank you so much for just talking and
You're
sharing all
welcome.
your jewels. I appreciate it. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Brandy. I enjoyed this, so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about my journey, and I just hope that I encourage somebody,
Absolutely.
with your
Yes.
story, and if you're feeling stuck and all of that, like you don't have to. You really don't
Mhm.
have to.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful, and now that I'm talking, I'm like, there are other things that I do want to say. Mindset,
Yeah.
my mindset
Mhm.
changed.
Mhm.
That was one other thing that changed. So I'm constantly now, when I'm thinking about a decision, I said, okay, is this a decision out of, I feel like I'm not going to have like a lack of
Mhm.
finances, a lack of resources, or is this a mindset of abundance? So
Mhm.
I'm thinking through those things now, because I think a lot of times, like you were saying, that made me think of it. You were saying like people will think out of a lack of resources or finances, and it's like
Mhm.
you can get those things.
Right.
Go get it. Go get it. Don't let that hold you back. That's literally not even my voice. That's Brandy's voice when we have our calls. When I'm like
Right.
complaining about something, she's like, Courtney, just go get it. Like,
Right.
but yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. All
You're
right.
welcome.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.